AITA for refusing to let my brother move into mom's house after she chose me as her caregiver. Even though he says family should share the burden, I didn't choose to become mom's caregiver. It just happened, like rain filling a bucket you forgot to cover. Dad left when I was 22. My brother Mark moved to Colorado 6 months later for a fresh start. And mom? She stayed in their 3-bedroom house, rattling around in silence, forgetting to eat, leaving the stove on. I lived 10 minutes away, so I started checking in, then staying for dinner, then sleeping over when storms scared her, then managing her meds, her bills, her doctor appointments. 3 years ago, she sat me down with her lawyer. I wanted official, she said. You're my caregiver. Not Mark, you. She updated her will, signed a cohabitation agreement, even changed her emergency contacts. This house is yours as long as you're here, she said. It's the least I can do. I didn't do it for the house, but I won't pretend it didn't ease the exhaustion, the kind that lives in your bones after years of being the only one who shows up. Then last Tuesday, Mark called. I'm moving back, he said like it was settled. Got a remote job. Thought I'd stay in the guest room while I look for a place. My stomach dropped. The guest room's been mom's art studio for 2 years. Then clear it out, he said. Family should share the burden, Rach. You've been doing this alone too long. It's not about sharing, I said carefully. Mom's routine is fragile. Strangers, even family, disrupt her. He's not a stranger, Mom said from the doorway, eyes bright. He's my son. I hadn't told her he was coming. She must have overheard. That night, she brought up old photo albums, Mark as a boy, building forts, fixing her garden gate. He's trying, she whispered. Give him a chance. But I've seen trying before. He visited last Christmas, promised to help sort Dad's old papers, then spent 3 days gaming in his room while I cooked and cleaned for 10 relatives. Still, I didn't say no outright. I said, let's talk logistics. Big mistake. At Sunday dinner, Mark announced to the whole table, Rachel's letting me move in. Finally, someone to share the load? I hadn't agreed, but now it was public. Aunt Carol beamed. About time you stepped up, Mark. Mom squeezed his hand. My boys are home. I'm the one who's been home every damn day. After dessert, I pulled him aside. I never said yes. You didn't say no, he shot back. And Mom wants me here. She wants peace, I said. Not chaos. He leaned in, voice low. Or maybe she's tired of you treating this house like your inheritance already. The words hit like ice. Because that's the story he's selling, that I'm using caregiving as a loophole to claim what should be shared. But nothing about this has ever been shared. Not the 3 a.m. panic calls. Not the insurance paperwork. Not the quiet grief of watching your parents shrink into someone fragile. And now, after 3 years of showing up while he sent birthday cards from Denver, he thinks he can waltz in, take a room, and call it teamwork? I went to Mom that night. If he moves in, I leave, she cried. Don't make me choose. But you already did, I said gently. 3 years ago, you chose me. She looked away. People change, Rachel. Yes, they do. But reliability isn't something you turn on when it's convenient. I still haven't given him an answer. But last night, I found boxes in the garage labeled Mark Guest Room. Mom must have started packing already. And for the first time, I wondered, was I never the caregiver? Just the placeholder until the prodigal son returned? The next morning, Mark showed up with a U-Haul parked outside and a printed copy of Mom's original caregiver agreement, highlighted in yellow. Primary caregiver may be reassigned at principal's discretion. She changed her mind, he said, smiling. Guess you're not indispensable after all? But as he carried in his first box, Mom pulled me aside, trembling. I only said that because he threatened to cut me off if I didn't. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't about helping her. It was about controlling who gets to love her last. The brochure sat on the table like a verdict. Harmony Gardens, where families reunite in peace. I picked it up slowly. The tour was scheduled for tomorrow, and at the bottom, in looping cursive that almost, but not quite, matched Mom's shaky script. Eleanor Kim, approved. Except Mom hadn't approved anything. Her real signature is tighter, smaller, with a sharp underline. This was soft, flowing. Mark's handwriting when he tries to mimic hers, a trick he used as a kid to forge permission slips. Did you sign this? I asked her quietly. She looked down, twisting her wedding ring. I think so. You don't remember? I trust Mark, she said. He says it's just a look, but I knew better. Once they got her into a facility, even for a tour, they'd lean on her confusion, her desire to please until she signed intake papers. And once she was in, getting her out would take lawyers, tears, and months of fighting. Absolutely not, I said, sliding the brochure back. She's not going. Mark leaned forward, all calm reason. No one's forcing her. It's just an option. An option you presented while I was at work, I shot back. To people who already think I'm hoarding her. Aunt Carol frowned. We're just concerned, Rachel. You've been run ragged. And you've been absent, I said, sharper than I meant. Now you show up and decide her life in a 2-hour meeting I wasn't invited to? It's family business, Uncle Dan said. Family business? I laughed bitterly. You haven't visited in 18 months. Now you're voting on where my mother lives? Mark held up a hand. Let's not make this about blame. We all want what's best. No, I said, looking straight at him. You want what's easiest. A clean conscience, A shared inheritance? A story where you saved mom from her overbearing daughter? His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Then stop acting like my love is a liability. Mom stood suddenly, chair scraping. Stop it, both of you. Tears streamed down her face. I don't want to leave my home, but I don't want you fighting either. Mark moved to hug her. We won't fight, Mom. Rachel's just stressed. But I saw it. The subtle shift in his posture. The way he positioned himself between us like a shield. Not protecting her from me. Protecting his narrative. After they left, I made tea, chamomile, her favorite, and sat with her on the porch. Why did you let him forge your name? I asked gently. She didn't deny it. Just whispered. He said if I didn't agree, he'd tell everyone you're keeping me prisoner. That you won't let me see anyone. My heart cracked. And you believed him? I believed he'd do it, she said. He always gets what he wants. I took her hand. Not this time. That night, I changed the locks. Not dramatically, not angrily. While Mom watched, I explained, Mark doesn't get unsupervised access anymore. If he visits, you or I must be here. She nodded slowly. He'll be furious. Let him be. When he showed up that afternoon, he rattled the knob, then pounded on the door. Open up, Rachel! This is insane. I opened it just enough to speak through the chain. You forged Mom's signature. You ambushed her with relatives. You're not here to help. You're here to control. This is my childhood home, he yelled. And I'm the one keeping it standing, I said. Leave, or I'll file a trespass warning. He stared at me, eyes wide with something like betrayal. You really think you're the good guy here? I think I'm the only one who's shown up sober, consistent, and honest for 3 years, I said. That doesn't make me good. It just makes me present. He left without another word. For 2 days, silence. Then a text. Fine, you win. I'll stay in a hotel, but don't act surprised when Mom chooses me anyway. But later that evening, Mom handed me a folded note, written in her real handwriting, underlined twice. Keep him out. He scares me when he's angry. And just like that, the truth surfaced. Not because I forced it, because she finally felt safe enough to speak it. The bank statement trembled in my hands. $8,200 gone from Mom's emergency fund, the money she'd saved for just in case. The withdrawal slip had her name signed at the bottom, neat, confident. Nothing like the shaky script she uses now. And beside it, in bold block letters, witness, Mark Kim. I showed it to Mom immediately. Her face went pale. I wouldn't. Did he ask you for this? I asked gently. She shook her head, tears welling. He said he needed help with hotel costs. I told him $50. He brought me this paper, said it was just a receipt. She'd signed a withdrawal form thinking it was a thank you note. That afternoon, I called the bank. They confirmed. Mark walked in with Mom, sat her down at the teller window, and guided her hand as she signed. Standard procedure allows it, if the account holder is present and appears competent. But competence isn't just about signing your name. It's about understanding what you're signing for. I filed a dispute, not because I thought I'd win. Banks rarely reverse these, but because I needed a paper trail. Proof that this wasn't care. It was extraction. Mark texted an hour later, "Don't make this ugly." She wanted to help me. I replied, "She wanted to give you $50. You took 164 times that. That's not help. It's theft." He didn't answer. 2 days later, he showed up. Not at the house, but at Mom's weekly bridge club where she plays with 3 elderly friends every Thursday. I found out when Mrs. Gable called, voice trembling. "Your brother was very insistent, dear. Said you've been manipulating Eleanor's finances and he's stepping in as protector. Now, even her safe space was contaminated." That night, I sat with Mom at the kitchen table, a legal aid brochure between us. "I don't want lawyers," she whispered. "I just want him to stop. You can't reason with someone who sees love as leverage," I said. "But you can protect yourself." We spent the evening filling out forms. Power of attorney, me only. Financial guardian designation. A letter to the bank revoking all third-party access. She signed each one slowly, deliberately. No forging. No confusion. Just clarity. "He'll hate me," she said quietly. "No," I said. "He'll hate that he can't use you anymore." The next morning, I served him the cease and desist letter I'd drafted with a pro bono elder law attorney. Notarized, legally binding. Stated clearly, no unsupervised contact, no financial decisions, no representation without written consent. He read it on the porch, face unreadable. When he looked up, there was no anger, just cold disappointment. "You really think paperwork will fix this?" "It won't fix you," I said, "but it'll protect her." He nodded once, turned, and walked away. For a week, nothing. No calls, no texts, no ambushes. Then a plain envelope arrived in the mail, no return address. Inside, a printed photo of Mom and me from last Christmas, torn cleanly down the middle. On the back in his handwriting, "You got half. I'll take the rest." I almost threw it away, but I didn't. I taped it back together and hung it on the fridge, right beside her medication schedule. Not as a threat, as a reminder, because healing doesn't start when the abuser changes. It starts when the protector stops apologizing for guarding the gate. Mom saw it the next morning. She touched the tape line gently. "He always did hate sharing," she said. I poured her tea. "Then we'll keep what's ours whole." And for the first time in years, she smiled. Not the fragile, people-pleasing smile she gave Mark, but the real one, the one that reaches her eyes. We're not safe yet. Legal battles loom. Family whispers continue. But we're together, and we're honest. That's enough for now. The will copy sat on my kitchen table like a ghost. Mark hadn't just scribbled notes. He'd annotated Mom's last legal document like it was a draft he was editing. Arrows pointing to primary residence Rachel Kim with shared written beside it. Under financial executor, he'd circled my name and drawn a line to his own. And Aunt Carol's sticky note, "We're meeting Tuesday to discuss updates," was the cruelest part. Because there was no meeting, no lawyer scheduled, just a manufactured sense of momentum designed to make Mom feel left out or pressured to comply. I showed it to her that evening. She stared at it for a long time. Then quietly, "He thinks I'm already gone." "What do you mean?" "That I'm just a placeholder until he decides what to do with me." She touched the page. Like my choices don't matter anymore. My throat tightened. They matter more than ever. That night, I called the attorney who'd helped us with the power of attorney. By morning, we had an appointment. Mom wore her good pearls, the ones Dad gave her on their 25th anniversary. Not for show, for armor. At the law office, she didn't hesitate. "I want a new will," she said, voice steady. "No shared assets. No co-executors. Rachel gets the house, the savings, the responsibility, and the right to say no." The lawyer nodded. "And your son?" "He gets what I've already given him," she said. "My love, my forgiveness. But not my home." Mark found out by lunchtime. He called me, voice low and dangerous. "You're poisoning her against me." "No," I said. "I'm giving her space to speak for herself." "You think this is over?" he asked. "I think it's finally beginning." 2 days later, Aunt Carol showed up unannounced, holding a casserole like it was a peace offering. "He's devastated," she said, setting it on the counter. "Says you've turned your mother into a weapon." I didn't invite her in. "Did you know he withdrew $8,200 from her account?" She waved a hand. "Family loans happen. This wasn't a loan. It was taken while she thought she was signing a receipt." Aunt Carol sighed. "You always did see the worst in him, and you always excuse it," I said. "But ask yourself, if roles were reversed, if I took that money, forged her signature, ambushed her with strangers, would you call it family or fraud?" She didn't answer. After she left, Mom came out of her room, eyes red but resolute. "I told her to leave," she said. "If she's here to defend him, she's not welcome." I hugged her. "You okay?" "I'm tired," she admitted, "but I'm not confused, and I'm not helpless." That weekend, we shredded the old will, burned the annotated copy in the backyard fire pit, watched the paper curl into ash. Mark drove by as it burned, slowed his car, didn't stop, but he didn't need to. His message was clear. "You think fire cleanses? I'll just write a new story." And maybe he would. But this time, Mom held the pen. Later, she handed me a small box from her closet. Inside, her wedding ring, her passport, and a folded letter addressed to me. "Open it when I'm gone," she said. I tucked it away without reading. Not because I didn't want to know, but because for once, the future wasn't something to fear. It was something we were building. Together, honestly, one protected boundary at a time. The court filing arrived by certified mail. Thick, formal, terrifying. Mark wasn't just asking for guardianship. He was painting me as a manipulator who'd severed Mom from her family, exploited her finances, and isolated her to secure inheritance. The affidavits were chilling in their vagueness. Rachel answers all calls before Eleanor can reach the phone. She cancels visits without explanation. Eleanor seems fearful when Rachel is present. None of it was true, but it didn't need to be. In probate court, perception often trumps proof, especially when the alleged victim is elderly. Mom read it silently at the kitchen table. When she looked up, her eyes were dry, sharp. "He's making me sound like a ghost." "You're not," I said. "You're right here." But I was scared. Not of losing the house. Not even of losing control. I was scared they'd believe him, and that Mom would be forced into a system that treats vulnerability as incapacity. That afternoon, I called Dr. Lynn, Mom's primary physician for 12 years. "She's competent," Dr. Lynn said immediately. "Cognitively intact. Mild anxiety, yes, but that's from this. Not the cause of it." She agreed to testify. Then I gathered evidence. 6 months of call logs showing Mom dials relatives herself, texts from cousins thanking her for checking in, bank statements proving I never touched her accounts, video clips from our porch cam, Mark shouting, Mom flinching. Most damning, the bank's internal note from the $8,200 withdrawal. Client appeared confused. Son guided hand during signature. I compiled it all into a binder labeled Eleanor Kim, Autonomy Record. Mom watched me work, sipping tea. "You don't have to fight this alone," I said. "I know," she said, "but I want to." The night before the hearing, she asked to practice testifying. "Just tell the truth," I said. "Say what you feel." She nodded. Then quietly, "What if they think I'm lying to protect you?" "Then they don't know you," I said, "and that's their failure, not yours." At the courthouse, Mark wore a suit I'd never seen before. Too crisp, too new. Aunt Carol sat beside him, clutching a tissue. We took our seats. No dramatic stares, no outbursts. Just the quiet hum of fluorescent lights and the weight of a lifetime in one room. The judge, a woman with silver hair and tired eyes, reviewed the petition. "Mr. Kim," she said, "you allege undue influence. What evidence do you offer beyond hearsay?" Mark shifted. "She won't let anyone see Mom alone. She controls everything." "And you?" the judge asked Mom. "Do you feel controlled?" All eyes turned to her. Mom stood slowly. "Not for effect, because dignity requires posture. I chose Rachel," she said, voice clear. "Not because I'm weak, but because she shows up. Not when it's convenient, but when it's hard." She looked at Mark. "You left. That's your choice. But don't pretend coming back now makes you her savior." Aunt Carol sniffled. Mark stared at the floor. Dr. Lynn testified next. Then the bank manager. Then me, with the binder, the logs, the video. When the judge asked Mark if he had anything else, he said, "She's my mother. I just want to help." The judge sighed. Help doesn't require erasing someone's agency. She denied the petition outright, dismissed with prejudice, and ordered Mark to reimburse the $8,200 within 30 days, or face civil theft charges. As we walked out, Mom squeezed my hand. "He'll come back," she said. "Maybe," I said. "But next time he'll know you're not a prize to be claimed. You're a person to be respected." And for the first time, I believed we might actually be safe. The key sat on my palm like a cold stone. Not because it opened the house, though it did, but because it proved he'd never stopped watching. I changed the locks again that afternoon, installed motion sensor lights, added a security camera over the front porch, not out of fear, out of respect, for Mom's peace, for our right to exist without surveillance. Mark didn't show up, didn't call, for 6 weeks silence. Then, on a rainy Tuesday, a plain envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, just my name in neat block letters. Inside, a cashier's check for $8,200 and a single sentence on plain paper. "You were right. I wasn't helping. I was taking. No apology. No excuse, just acknowledgement." I showed it to Mom. She read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in her jewelry box, the one that holds Dad's old watch and her first wedding photo. "He's not sorry," she said softly. "He's just tired." Maybe, but exhaustion can look like remorse when you've run out of ways to win. We didn't cash the check right away, not because we doubted it, but because accepting it felt like closing a door, and we needed to be sure we wanted it shut. Then last Sunday, Mom handed me a new will, freshly signed, notarized, witnessed by her doctor and her best friend from Bridge Club. "You're still my choice," she said. "Not because you won a court case, because you never made me feel like a burden." That night, we sat on the porch listening to the rain. "I used to think love meant saying yes," she said. "Now I know it means saying no. To lies, to pressure, to people who treat your kindness like a weakness." I leaned my head on her shoulder. We learned that together. A month later, Mark moved back to Colorado. Aunt Carol sent a stiff email. "He's starting fresh. Please don't contact him." I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. Our lives settled into a new rhythm, quieter, deeper. Mom joined a memoir writing group. I started therapy, not for trauma, but for boundaries. We even planted a garden where the U-Haul once idled. There's no grand reconciliation, no tearful hug at an airport, just space and safety. And the slow, steady work of rebuilding trust in each other, in ourselves, in the idea that showing up consistently is its own kind of love. Mark may always believe he was entitled to a share of her life simply because he shares her blood. But Mom taught me something better. Love isn't inherited. It's earned day after day, choice after choice. And I'll keep earning hers. Not for the house, but for the honor of being the one who stayed.